Countywide by the meeting, and it looks like we do not have quorum, so I need to ask the group if we can meet first meet as a community.
Hey guys, it's really hard to hear you on the internet side. I'm not sure if the microphones aren't on or what.
Sorry about that. They're on now.
They are very.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Okay, we are, in case it didn't get captured by the recording, we have called the meeting to order of the Sonoma County Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And we do not have a quorum of members here, so I had asked for concurrence from the group to meet as a committee of the whole. And it looks like we got a majority of the members that are here, at least 3 of 5. So we will proceed. Okay, item 1, call to order introductions. Let's do introductions. My name is Edie Takata. I'm from the city of Rohnert Park, and I'm the chair of this committee. And I'll just go this direction.
Steph Britt, Transportation Planner with SCTCA.
Alexander Oseguera, Active Transportation Planner with the City of Santa Rosa.
JP Harris, Senior Planner, City of Cotati.
Andrew Peters, Engineer, Town of Windsor Public Works.
Dave Ripperda, Director of Projects and Programming, SCTCA.
Giovanna Quezada with Sonoma County Public Infrastructure.
Elizabeth Tyree, Sonoma County Regional Parks.
And quickly in the back, in the room. Thank you. And do we have anyone? Oh no, we have some folks online.
Michael Harrigan, project manager with the city of Healdsburg.
Stephen Hunter, engineer, Sonoma County Public Infrastructure.
Will Lyons, Sonoma County Planning.
Kelly McNerney, just concerned citizen, bicyclist, League of Women voter.
Jay Riddle, Transportation Planner with Mark Thomas.
Angelica Rocha, Transportation Planner with Barron Pierce.
Super, thanks. I think that is it in the gallery.
One more. I'm Drake Hayes, Transportation Planner with Barron Pierce.
Super.
And I'm Zoe Unruh with SMART.
Okay, any more online? Welcome. Thank you for being here. Okay, item number 2, administrative items 2.1, receipt and approval of meeting notes March 25th and May 27th of this year, and that needs an action, but we don't have a quorum to perform this action, so I guess we will table till next.
Sure,
meeting.
never mind. I have a comment.
Mhm.
On May 27th, I noticed that I and Kurt Bates were listed as guests. So, and I'm also listed above in committee members, so you can strike me from guests. And then Kurt should probably be up as the committee member.
Thank you. We'll fix
That's-
that. The other name was Kurt?
Kurt Bates?
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we will table this for approval at the next meeting when we do have a quorum. Okay, item number 3, public comment on items not on the regular agenda. And do we have any comments from the public in the room? Okay, how about online, remote?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're done with comments. Number 4, regional funding, 4.1 quarterly status report of TDA 3 and TFCA projects. And we're receiving an update on the Q4 status of both the funding sources. And is that David?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this, as noted, is the quarterly status report of the delivery of TDA3 and TFCA funded projects. This is a regular item, and if you have any questions, corrections, please feel free to reach out to us.
Any questions from the members here? Okay. Number 4.2, complete streets checklist for SR 37, Highway 121, long-term improvements. David?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So this checklist is required as we're seeking allocation vote from MTC of $10 million from Regional Measure 3 to start the environmental phase of the long-term Highway 37, 121 interchange. That would include a raised causeway at an elevation subject to sea level rise through the year 2130. That causeway will have a railroad grade separation over the Smart Brazos Branch freight line, which is planned for future passenger rail service. And it will also include a Class 1 bikeway as part of the planned Bay Trail with connections to existing pathways that are already in occurrence in the project area. The exact scope of the project is still being fleshed out. As we get further into environmental, we'll know more, but we're asking for committee input on the complete streets checklist. As I noted, the project will include a Class 1 bikeway that will be barrier separated from the travel lanes and will include other facilities as needed. And happy to answer any questions that you may have. There's no action needed on this checklist, but we're asking for input. And we've also reached out to the transit operators for their input, and we'll be soliciting any comments and turning them around to MDC hopefully early August.
Okay. I hope the members had a chance to review the complete streets checklist. If anybody has any questions, I do have a quick question if you don't have any questions to come up yet. Okay. On checklist item 26, complete streets, that says, the question was, please provide 2 to 4 sentence overview of the project's estimated benefits, et cetera. And the answer was the project improvements will improve speed. Which I like. I like that.
On the form.
I wish I could be like that. Short and sweet. I didn't know.
I'll send out a better description. I don't know why that got cut off in the form, but I'll fix that.
Okay. Very good. Short and sweet, but there's more. Thank you.
But just to provide some narrative, the project would improve transit reliability and speed through the corridor by removing the signalized intersection of Highway 121 and having a fully grade separated interchange there. I would also facilitate potentially including a mobility hub at the interchange for park and ride and transit access, including future transit access that transit services planned by Solano Transit Authority, and then potentially a platform for Smart if Smart ever decided to have a station in that location. There is existing transit service provided by Amtrak Sound Keynes through a Route 7 bus. It doesn't stop in the area, but it does travel through the corridor.
This is a little off subject, I mean, for this group, but is there Tole Creek improvements proposed as part of that too? Does it look like it in the application?
Yeah, so the near-term Highway 37 Sears Point to Merrill Improvement Project is replacing the existing Tole Creek Bridge. That's about 60 feet long with new 375-foot long bridge to allow restoration in the Tole Creek Lagoon and Basin. This longer-term project would basically remove the bridge that will be constructed soon. Construction on the new bridge is supposed to start next year. But when this project moves forward, it would replace it with a new higher bridge that would be over Tole Creek entirely on a new causeway structure to be resistant against sea level rise. So we're assuming that Tole Creek will be restored as part of a project that Sonoma Land Trust is working on right now.
Thanks.
I just want to comment on behalf of Regional Parks. Thank you to SCTCA and David for your work on this project. This is of interest to Regional Parks, so thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the members? And now we can take public comment. Looks like we have someone from Emily from Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. Yeah, I think so that we can get it on the recording.
Thank you. No, okay. Thanks. So I'm just curious. I know this is still preliminary, but I'm wondering if you can say a little bit more about where the Class 1 trail is going to be. I didn't see it on any of the maps. What I see is a preferred alternative, which looks like it shows a Class 4 separated lane. So I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit more about the Class 1 trail, how long it's going to be, just some more details about it, because I didn't see that in there. Thanks.
Sure. So in the packet, there was a cross section shown with, you have the shoulder for the highway, and then you have a barrier, and then a class 1 bikeway. That bikeway is planned to occur all the way along 37 between Highway 101 to eventually Highway 29 in Vallejo, and eventually maybe even to Highway 80. That connection for this particular portion of the project would probably with the existing Elliott Trail, which is an unpaved gravel trail on top of the levee south of Reclamation Road that you can get to through the wildlife refuge. And so this project would probably include a connection to that on the south side of Highway 37. Depending on the interchange design, it may include a fully grade separated interchange or have the on and off ramps at signals, and that would give us opportunities to have the pathway go underneath the on and off ramps to be fully separated from traffic and potentially connect to the west over to the National Wildlife Refuge by their farm building they have south of Highway 37. So we're still figuring out the exact limits of the project, but we anticipate that the pathway would be on the bay side of Highway 37.
Great, thank you. So it sounds like a combination of like class 1 and class 4, kind of depending on where the project is located, or?
We anticipate that
located?
it'll be classified as a class 1 because it is the width of the class 1 bike facility and is barrier separated and does not have any kind of interaction with vehicles. So we anticipate it'll be class 1.
Okay. And is it, it's going to be a two-way cycle track?
Correct.
Probably. Okay. How likely is this design to change in, as you get further into the process?
This is going to be a very long-term project, so the design refinements will probably change over time. The width shown in the cross-section in the staff report is from the Highway 37 Planning Environmental Linkages Study, which assumed a 14-foot wide bike path. Due to cost pressures, there may be some desire to shrink that to 12 or 10 feet. And also there are 12-foot shoulders shown in the cross-section to allow potential bus on shoulder or part-time running lanes. Those shoulders are also subject of discussion right now to potentially shrink the size of the bridge to lower costs. But as we go through this process, we anticipate the environmental phase will take probably 4 to 5 years, and the design 5 or so years. And we have no funds identified for construction, so there definitely be opportunities for changes and comments as the project proceeds.
Great, thank you. From the public that is online, comments? Okay, thank you. Fascinating. Can't wait for this to happen. I hope I'm alive when it does. How about item number 5, regional planning, 5.1, community-based transportation plans update. And we are looking for discussion here, and we are going to have an update from
I'll be
staff.
doing that.
Thank you.
And let's see if I can share my screen. Could I share my screen, Dawn? And there we go. All right, so I will be providing an update on our community-based transportation plans. A little bit of background. So community-based transportation plans are equity priority communities where we are doing a community-oriented approach. And through this planning process, we get a grassroots level type of feedback on how we can improve transportation, access, and equity. This planning process is very focused in 2 study areas. The ones that we are working on are for South Santa Rosa and for Central Rohnert Park. Many members in this committee are quite involved in the process, and we appreciate that. So here's our agenda for our brief presentation. We're going to discuss phase 1 of engagement that is now done, and some summaries about the engagement events and some of the survey input we received. And then discuss our next steps as we enter phase 2 of engagement. So here we can see the first study area, which is in South Santa Rosa Avenue. It is right next to Taylor Mountain and off to along Santa Rosa Avenue. A lot of the feedback that we've received has really focused on some of the challenges with Santa Rosa Avenue, crossing the streets, high speeds, just difficulty for pedestrians and cyclists to navigate that corridor. And then we have Central Rohnert Park. Oop, did I change? There we go. Central Rohnert Park, a lot of that feedback around there has also discussed access to the smart station, lighting, and just difficulty navigating as pedestrians and cyclists in these areas. So we have wrapped up phase 1 of engagement. Here we have some great photos of us going out to the community. We had pop-up events, door knocking, and focus groups that were very helpful in receiving feedback. So for phase 1 of engagement, some of these pop-up events were quite useful in getting just grassroots level engagement. We would be at post offices or at shopping centers, and the people there tended to be people that actually lived in the study area, and there was very valuable feedback. And we did this during the period of February to April 1st. Some of the specific events you can see listed here for Rohnert Park, like at the library. We had a community representative committee. We went to Lovette Landing and we spoke with the Copeland Creek senior residents. And we also went to specific community events like at a PTA or at Sonoma State University, spoke to students there and future planners, etc. In Santa Rosa, we also had focus groups. We worked with Latino service providers and their youth promoters to get some specific feedback from them. Went door knocking at Lamplighter Mobile Home Park. We also had a community representative committee there. And we also had pop-up events at Lola's Market, at a food pantry, etc. And the scope of the reach was quite substantial. For Rohnert Park, we got 96 completed surveys. Santa Rosa, we got 56. The number of comments we got for the maps were 157 for Rohnert Park and 88 for Santa Rosa. In total for our in-person events, Rohnert Park received 107 plus 68 for specifically Copeland Creek overcrossing events that gave very specific feedback for that overcrossing that is being considered. And for Santa Rosa, we got 143. And as summary, here we see some of the specific comments that we received here. And overall, our consultants were quite great at gathering up all of the intel that we got from the community and various types of feedback that will tie into safe routes to school. Like, for example, students at Lawrence E. Jones Middle School, the kids tended to cross Snyder Lane without a crosswalk and just run across the street to catch the bus. So that's good feedback that we can bring regarding safe routes to school. And just kind of pinpointing where we might need flashing beacons, more crosswalks, and make it safer to cross streets in that area. And then here we have a map with some of the specific improvements that were suggested. And and a lot of it also in Rohnert Park really focused on access to the smart station. So that's where we got a lot of comments there. And of the people that completed the survey, many of them said that they tend to drive a car or motorcycle, walk or bike around town. And here we can see the proportions of the people that responded to the survey. Yeah, and most people, when they're trying to get across the 101 dividing Rohnert Park, they tend to drive. And 79% of respondents indicated that they could use a new walking or biking path over Copeland Creek in order to get across. And then for Santa Rosa, similar types of comments, but they really tended to focus around Santa Rosa Avenue. Like 2/3 of the map comments really focus in that corridor. And a lot of them also really discussed need for higher frequency in transit there. Here we see a map of the transit corridor and some of the suggestions that we have there, like higher frequency, better coordination between the bus routes, and easier access getting to the smart station from this area. So those are the comments that we received. And of the 56 people that completed the survey, a lot of them tended to drive in the area, and a smaller proportion walked or rode transit compared to Runner Park. So off to next steps. We are now going towards phase 2 of engagement, where we're going to take the feedback that we received and do a short list of potential solutions that may address the needs of the community. To do this, we're hosting 2 community transportation resource fairs. These are now scheduled. And then we're going to, at these meetings, do some budgeting exercises and also join existing meetings to get more feedback on the short list of recommendations so that we can really fine tune all of the recommendations and make sure they're feasible and they actually address the needs of the community. And I do have the dates, if you will mind. So the Runner Park Resource Fair is August 16th from 9 to 2 p.m. And the Santa Rosa Resource Fair is August 23rd from 9 to 2 p.m. So we hope to see you there. And more details will be sent out. But for Runner Park, it will be at John Reed Elementary School. And in Santa Rosa, it will be at Taylor Mountain Elementary School. If you have any questions.
Any questions from the group? Do you have a comment? So I've been working with the consultant Fair and Peers and Eleanor Leschner and with SCTCA staff, and it's been a great and revealing project. I mean, I'm glad we did do some outreach to folks that were very focused, like at Labatt Landing with our housing for formerly unhoused. So that was good to see a perspective of folks who probably have travel in different ways, in nuanced ways. Got some ideas from Santa Rosa about doing outreach at the food pantry lines. That's smart.
Yeah, that's a great outreach.
Yeah, it seems like so. We'll use that technique in the future, but I think this is going to be really informative for Verona Park. Definitely,
Yeah.
I mean, like, immediately informative.
Yeah, lots of good feedback. It also challenged my perspective too as we were out there, like especially the senior center. I was like, oh, you don't know what you don't know here, and just making it more accessible for everyone. It's really good food for thought as a planner.
Yeah. CBTP, it's the way to go.
Yeah.
Any public comment?
I see one from Zoe.
Hi, I was just hoping you could provide those dates again for the August events and the locations. I was having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, so for Rohnert Park, it will be August 16th at John Reed Elementary School. And August 23rd for Santa Rosa at Taylor Mountain Elementary School. And I believe it's 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
For both 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.?
I believe so. I can confirm.
Okay.
Congrats on getting so much feedback.
Yeah.
That was really impressive, those numbers.
Thank you.
Took a lot of work. It took a lot of work. Definitely, yeah.
Does that Edie chase down people on bikes? So.
Oh, yeah. We had to, no, literally. Because I mean, I don't know if anyone here has worked in Rohnert Park, but it is, it had tended to be a less engaged community, until as of late, maybe the last 5 years, we've really been trying to step up, our engagement. But if it takes chasing down folks on the path, but yeah. Looks like we have a comment from Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Chris Barney, SETCA. So Zoe, on both of those dates and for anyone else, if you'd like to table or participate or provide any materials we can pass along or give away, love to include you in that. So we'll be getting out invitations and more information soon. So yeah, looking forward to those 2 events.
Okay. Let me pull up my agenda. It looks like we are now able to move to item 5.2, Safe Routes to School, schools prioritization, and we're looking for discussion in here, but we have a presentation from, I don't know. I see it
Right.
coming up. Let's go.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. So Dave Rippert again. I'll be presenting on behalf of Margot, who's out on vacation. With me, I also have Drake and Anelka from Fair and Peers, our consultant team, along with Jay from Mark Thomas. So they are leading this effort for our Safe Routes to School plan. And the first of two presentations is on our Safe Routes to Schools plan prioritization effort. All right. So just let's see if it's, yeah, all right. Took a second to sync. So just to give you an overview of the topics, kind of give you an overview of our Safe Routes to School program and this plan effort, talking about the prioritization that we're working on, and then looking at countywide all of the different schools, and Fair and Peers will discuss the methodology they developed to prioritize those schools, along with I'll be covering the results of that prioritization. And then also we'll be talking about our work plan going forward and what we're going to do for this countywide Safe Routes to School plan. So just to give you an overview, there is an overlap right now between this planning effort and also the work the Bike Coalition does under contract to SCTA. So right now, the Bike Coalition, through their contract for their Safe Routes to School program, they focus on education encouragement, data collection, and then through their sub, W-Trans also do site assessments at the different schools to look at infrastructure needs. So that's under contract through OBAG 3 funding. With this study, we hired Mark Thomas and their sub Fair and Peers to look at additional site assessments to develop Safe Routes to School infrastructure improvement plans, or IIPs as we're calling them, and look at the cost and funding of different infrastructure improvements around those schools. We're using a fiscal year 23 Safe Streets and Road for All grant application that we're awarded grant funding to do this work, and it's been proceeding over the last year or so. So what are we trying to do this and why? So we're trying to do a data-driven roadmap to inform how we develop our Safe Routes to School non-infrastructure program and direct our finite resources we have for that program to specific schools where we think we're going to have some load shift and the neighborhoods that have the most need. We're looking at how can we enhance the competitiveness of different projects to make them more competitive for funding opportunities. One of the criticisms of the existing program is there's sometimes site assessments done that don't lead to grant applications. And we want to be sure that whatever plan we develop will lead to basically shovel-ready grant applications that are easy to be able to submit for funding and be able to implement it in the future. That includes looking at not only safety and treatments, but also redesigning streets and how we can incorporate climate adaptation elements such as green infrastructure and street trees to secure competitive funds. We're looking at how can we expand partnerships with the school districts, and then also look at how we can strengthen partnerships with our local jurisdictions and other stakeholders while respecting everyone's limited time to be able to participate in these activities. Lastly, we want to leverage our Safe Routes to School program to achieve our goals and the goals of our jurisdictions and the school districts to look at how we can help implement improvements that will help with safety, health, wellness, climate change mitigation, and instructional goals as well. So trying to give you a timeline, we started with a specific Safe Routes to School plan update for the city of Healdsburg. And that has been kind of the model we're going to be using for our countywide plan. We're looking at all 5 schools in the city right now, both public and private, and then we're developing our infrastructure improvement plans and programs for those schools. Once we wrap up that plan, we're kind of in parallel and then moving forward with the countywide plan. We started working on that earlier this year, and we plan to wrap it up by spring of 2027. That include the prioritized schools work plan, enhanced education active transportation encouragement program opportunities, and also looking at infrastructure improvement plans and costs associated with those infrastructure improvements. Just to kind of orient you on all the schools, there are 204 schools that we identified within the county. That includes 80% are public schools and 20% are private schools, and goes all the way from the urban areas of the cities out to the coast where you have various rural locations, even up on tribal land as well. Just a geographic breakdown of where those schools are located. Most of them are in the incorporated cities. However, 39% of them are in the unincorporated county, which has the highest total school count. Santa Rosa, Petaluma, and Roanoke Park account for nearly 50% of the total schools. And here's a breakdown. As you can see, 20% of the schools are private, 25% are public charter schools, and 55% are public traditional schools. And there's a different breakdown by each of the jurisdictions. And that, go on to the next slide here. And then just looking at all the different school districts, over 50% of the schools are located within just 11 of the districts. But however, 13% of the school districts only include 2 or less schools. So we have some very large districts and also some very small districts as well. And a lot of those districts, particularly in the Santa Rosa area, have overlapping jurisdictions depending on the grade level. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Drake and then Helga to talk about their methodology, and then I'm available to advance slides as you're ready.
Sweet. Thank you, David. Yeah, so here we're looking at the indicators or criteria that our team selected to prioritize the schools as part of this exercise. Each of our indicators come from replicable data sources that can be updated in the future and fall into 2 buckets, road-based indicators and place-based indicators. Starting with road-based, we have active mobility use vulnerability, which looks at the number of bike-ped collisions within a half mile of a school. We also have safety need, which looked at the number of high injury network miles and the number of high injury intersections within a half mile of a school. And then moving on to our place-based indicators, we have school zone student density, which calculated the number of students or folks living who are 18 years or younger living within a half mile of a school. We have student health, which is based on the California Healthy Places Index, a data and policy tool to advance health equity by considering factors that influence health, such as education, employment, and environmental quality. Our climate adaptive need indicator is measured from the California Climate Investments Priority Populations, which considers low income and disadvantaged areas. And lastly, in place-based indicators, we have equity impact, which is calculated by the percent of students eligible for free and reduced lunch at a given school. Next slide. And so now we'll dig into the calculations and methodology. Each of our criteria were evenly weighted with a normalized score between 0 and 1. So that means that the highest score a school could potentially score is 6 because we only have 6 total criteria. Explaining that further for each indicator, for active mobility use vulnerability, we take a normalized count of the collisions. And so an example of this that we'll touch on more in the next slide, if the school with the most collisions had 20 collisions total, and that would be the higher end, that would score a full 1. And then if you had a school that only had 10 collisions, it would score a 0.5. And that methodology was carried out for all the indicators. For safety need, we looked at the amount of high injury network mileage and number of high injury intersections within a half mile, and then normalized it. For school zone student density, we did the same exercise with the number of students living within a half mile buffer. For student health, we looked at the California Healthy Places Index score and then normalized it. Climate adaptive need was normalized based on a designation count, based on polygons that we'll share how we calculated in the next slide. And equity impact, which is calculated by the percent of students eligible for free or reduced price lunch. Within our sample of Sonoma County schools, the highest eligibility was 100%. So the normalized score would be the same as the raw score in this case. Next slide. So for all of our criteria, besides free and reduced lunch, which was assigned directly at the school level, we used a half mile buffer for our calculations. Here is an example from Guerneville Elementary School to show how point-based, line-based, and polygon-based indicators were calculated. Beginning with points, as I said earlier, for bike and ped collisions, the raw score is calculated by counting the number of collisions within this half mile buffer. Then the score is normalized by dividing the raw score by the maximum raw count from all of the schools analyzed in the county. So Guerneville Elementary had 10 collisions and the maximum score in the county was a school with 20. Guerneville Elementary would score a 0.5. For lines, here's an example of the high injury network where we would have counted the length of the high injury network within the half-mile buffer and then normalized that score against other schools analyzed. And then lastly, for polygons, here's an example for our school zone student density where we used block groups to calculate the student density. So take this turquoise block group in the upper right part of the buffer as an example. If that block group had 100 people under the age of 18 and 20% of the block group falls into the buffer, we would assign 20% of that 100 to the buffer. So 20 people under the age of 18. And we would do that automatically throughout for all the polygons of block groups that overlap with our 1/2 mile buffer. Next slide. And so now I wanted to start making sense why we separated these into road-based and place-based criteria. The effort was to show the spatial distribution and have metrics that are influenced by roadway density as well as just by their place within Sonoma County. So here we're looking on the map at our safety need indicator, which is made up of the high injury network and high injury intersections. So we see the top quartile of scores that are scoring the highest with the largest, darkest circles, scoring well in incorporated, more urban areas. The highest ranked school is shown here, the New Horizons School and Learning Center in Santa Rosa. This shows a similar distribution for our other road-based indicator, active mobility use vulnerability, which considers collisions. And so in these more dense urban areas where there's a more dense road network, we saw that these criteria were scoring higher. We can go to the next slide, David. Thank you. And so here we're looking at equity impact, which is based on our free and reduced lunch program variable. The map is set up the exact same way with the highest quartile being shown in the largest, darkest circles. And the highest scores being labeled on the map with the Sonoma County Court School and Kashia Elementary. Here we can see these darker, larger circles being spread more evenly throughout the county. And we'll show another example on the next slide, David. Sweet. Well, we're looking at climate adaptive need, which is from our California Climate Investments Priority Populations variable. And similar to equity impact, which looked at free and reduced lunch, we see a distribution of the highest quartile schools that is distributed more evenly throughout the county, a pattern that is reflected for all of our place-based criteria, including student density, student health, climate adaptive need, and equity impact. The combination of these road-based and place-based variables aims to provide a more even geometric spread of high-scoring schools. And with that, I'll give it back to you, David.
All right, thanks so much, Drake. And if there's no questions on the methodology, I'm just going to finish out the presentation and then we can go back for any more questions. So using the prioritization methodology that Fair and Peers developed, we went through and scored all 204 schools throughout the county to look at how we rank the different schools. Given the demographics of the city of Santa Rosa and a lot of areas that are unincorporated county, a lot of those higher scoring schools are in Santa Rosa or the unincorporated county, followed by Petaluma and Roanoke Park. And we have a further breakdown on the next slide of how that shook out. So here's the top 50 schools in the county. As you can see, pretty much everything on the left-hand side of the screen is pretty much the city of Santa Rosa, or you have Taylor Mountain just outside Santa Rosa in the unincorporated county. You have John Reed Elementary School in Roanoke Park, and then a few schools start popping up as well in Petaluma and Roanoke Park as you go down the list. As you go down further, you start having other jurisdictions such as Cloverdale and City of Sonoma and Windsor pop up. And on the next slide, we have the top 51 to 100 schools, and you start seeing some more diversity in here as well, but still very much City of Santa Rosa and the unincorporated county are dominating the locations of the schools in this prioritization criteria. given that this is a countywide Safe Route School plan, we don't want to just make the plan about City of Santa Rosa and the unincorporated county. So we looked at, based on the top ranked schools in the jurisdiction, does it make sense to pull out specific schools from each jurisdiction to look at? And if there are there other schools right nearby where it makes sense to have them as part of an infrastructure plan because they're so close together? You have students traveling to the same schools, you have parents that might be dropping off kids at one school and then going on to the adjacent school after that. So it made sense to kind of do bundles of different schools. So here we're looking at 12 different IIP projects, as we're calling them. That's a total of 32 schools. We exclude the city of Healdsburg since we're doing their separate Safe Route School Plan update and looking at all 5 of their schools. And so for this prioritized list, we looked at 1 individual school and 1 bundle of 8 different schools in the city of Santa Rosa, 1 bundle of 4 different nearby schools in the city of Roanoke Park, 1 individual school and 1 bundle of schools in Petaluma. Same for the county, 1 school and 1 bundle. And then Windsor, 1 bundle of schools, along with Cloverdale and City of Sonoma, and then 1 individual school each in the city of Cotati and the city of Sebastopol. Just looking at the individual bundles, here we had broken out with an individual school for Luther Burbank Elementary, which is on the outskirts of downtown. And then geographically looking at the Southwest Santa Rosa and Roseland area, essentially west of Highway 101, south of Highway 12, and north of Bellevue. We're looking at 8 different schools, mostly in the Roseland Elementary School District, but a few others as well that all pop up highly in the prioritization criteria, ranked between number 4 and number 33 out of 100. City of Roanoke Park, we have 4 schools that are somewhat nearby each other with John Reed Elementary, and then also the Technology Middle High School and El Camino High Continuation School as well, all popping up along the Southwest Boulevard area. In the city of Petaluma, we're looking at a standalone project for McKinley Elementary and the adjacent Petaluma Accelerated Charter School, and then a number of schools that are nearby the Lakeville Street and Lakeville Highway corridor as well. For the unincorporated county, we're looking at 3 different, and I'm sorry that label is incorrect, I'll correct that, 3 different schools within the Springs area of the Sonoma Valley at Flowery, El Verano, and Sonoma Charter School, along with Guerneville Elementary School in the West County. For the town of Windsor, we're looking at the area around the high school with the high school and the continuation schools listed there as well. To wrap things up for Cloverdale, looking at all 4 schools listed here, and then City of Sonoma, the adjacent Sonoma Valley High and the continuation Creekside High School as well. For Cotati, we're looking at the Thomas Page Academy on the west side of town, and then Sebastopol looking at Annalee High. And as I mentioned earlier, we're already prioritizing the schools in Healdsburg, so we're not studying them further as part of this effort. So with that, just kind of going over the schedule, as I mentioned earlier, we're starting the City of Healdsburg plan first. That's been going on for a little while. We're hoping to wrap up the infrastructure improvement plans for the plan update this fall with adoption next spring. At the same time, we're starting the countywide effort with finalization of this prioritization and our work plan late summer, and then working on the site assessments and infrastructure improvement plans between the fall and the winter, and then working on developing the final plan by spring of 2027. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on this prioritization process. We'd like your input on, are we hitting the right schools? Does the prioritization methodology make sense as we move forward with a recommendation to the board in September? So with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Any comments, feedback from the group here?
I might want to talk to you about the schools listed for Santa Rosa offline. Okay, that's all I got.
I think for Roanoke Park, we might have to talk also, and I'm curious, is and I like the methodology and analysis. And then when we come to the schools that bubbled up, I can see why, but I can also see, well, there's some nuances, like for example, Technology High School is a small high school with that's it's designed as a magnet school, so folks are coming anyway. There's nuances, so I'm curious about we are not at a stage yet, this is a question, where there have been discussions with the school district. Yeah, right, okay. This is just a way to kind of help bubble up area, points of interest so that we can pursue discussions about how to change, address nuances.
Right. So right now we're trying to get input from this committee and we can do that offline or here today. Margot will be meeting with the school districts at some point in the coming months to try to get their input on this as well and see if it makes sense to them before we start doing formal site assessments and planning in the coming months.
Okay, that's helpful. So is it okay to, because I don't want to bore everyone with my discussions
Yeah, we can
about
follow up offline.
Tech High versus the regular high school versus Credo and all that. Okay, thank you. I'm glad there's an opportunity to do that.
And I should say for the bundles, we're really looking at, does it make sense geographically to put them all in
Yeah.
one bundle versus we might have a school here and then a school on the other side of town that we'd love to look at both, but we just don't have the resources to cover both. But if they're in the same general neighborhood, it kind of makes sense to put them in a bundle together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's, on one side of my brain, I'm looking at the opportunities that are there and the synergies with other projects. For example, that John Reed Tech High, Tech Middle and El Camino. Yes, absolutely, as a bundle. But then I start thinking about, other opportunities that are more down the line or that this may spur those infrastructure opportunities to bubble up more. And of course, those are discussions, internally, as well as understanding what the school district would be interested in and could support.
And we're trying to definitely leverage existing planning and project
Yeah.
efforts that are going on in the jurisdictions. We just adopted all the active transportation plans and we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to build on what we already worked on and kind of develop it to a further level of detail if we can.
Oh, absolutely. You can see that with the SS4A project, the multi-jurisdictional project, definitely the project that we had, which was Adrian Drive. Right at the end, we have John Reed, so it's, right there. So that totally makes sense. Any other feedback from the committee? Public comment?
Hello, I have two questions. I'll ask them both at the same time. So I'm curious how, well, City of Santa Rosa, City of Petaluma have both been involved in Safe Routes to School task forces of their own that have identified, they've done extensive auditing and have identified a lot of issues at those schools. I'm curious how that work has factored in to this review. And then my second question is if you can offer kind of an idea of what an infrastructure improvement plan might be, what the scope of it is. I know there's no specifics yet, but whose input will you be getting and kind of what could a plan potentially include? Thanks.
Yeah, so we definitely have been leveraging the existing efforts that Santa Rosa and Palo have been doing with the Safe Routes to School Task Force, along with the student location data and the assessments that the Coalition has done over the years and incorporate some of that work effort into why we picked these particular schools. We're trying to leverage existing efforts that have already occurred and things that are going forward. And so we definitely want to build on that. And the next presentation, I'll be talking about the Safe Routes to School Task Force as well, how we're trying to expand them countywide. Going back to your second question on the infrastructure improvement plans, we're really trying to get to a more detailed level of design than just the lines on the map like we did on the active transportation plans. We're hoping to develop it kind of to like a 15% conceptual design level so you can have concept plans showing what the improvements will be and be able to have them ready for a grant. Just to share what we did for the Healdsburg IIPs, we had site assessments in the field with City of Healdsburg staff from the consultant team and from SCTCA, and depending on availability of school staff and parents, some parents and school staff were attending on some of those sidewalks as well. So we anticipate having all those parties along with the Bike Coalition, if they're available, look at doing these kind of site assessment field walks for these different schools, which will feed into the infrastructure improvement plans that hopefully will lead to grant ready applications and awards of grant funds in the future to construct these projects.
Thank you. Any feedback, questions from the gallery? Public comment? Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
So we have you have the next item, which is the augmentation.
Just share my screen again. Okay. So that was the infrastructure side of the planning effort we're doing. Now this is the non-infrastructure side. So right now, as I mentioned earlier, we contract with the Bike Coalition for their non-infrastructure program for education encouragement. And we're looking at how can we improve the existing program, given that we have expanded funds available from the Ghost and sales tax. And we're also gearing up for the next round of federal OBAG 4 funding in the coming years. So here's the slide we shared earlier showing the breakdown between what the Bike Coalition is doing today in the green for non-infrastructure improvements, and then the blue with the infrastructure planning efforts that are happening right now. So again, we're looking at how can we try to prioritize what we're doing for both infrastructure and non-infrastructure to look at how can we bring in more funds for the region to implement infrastructure and non-infrastructure programs while implementing all of our goals. Right now, here's the slide that we shared earlier with the schedule. This includes looking at how we're going to be wrapping things up in time for a procurement for the OBAG 4 funds to operate the Safe Route School program. Currently, the Bike Coalition performs that work under contract to SCTCA. However, we'll have to do a new competitive procurement going forward. That may be awarded to the Bike Coalition or to another contractor, depending on how that competitive process goes. So why are we doing this? As I mentioned earlier, we got the grant from Safe Streets for All in fiscal year 23 to do this countywide Safe Route School plan and to prepare for the OBAG Cycle 4 funding. We're looking at how can we tap into the relationships that Margot has been building with the different county and school district superintendents to build more awareness of the Safe Route School program, secure their endorsements, and try to leverage and expand the Safe Route School reach to open doors to the local schools via the school district's communication channels and their networks. And we're looking at how we can use the prioritization methodology that we talked about before to proactively direct and sync these non-infrastructure improvements with the infrastructure improvements that we're planning for the future. And then we're also looking at how can we build off and expand those city-specific Safe Route School task forces that were mentioned earlier to deepen and bolster the Safe Route School efforts and perhaps expand those task forces to all the jurisdictions throughout the county. We want to be able to leverage the data that we collect and experiences that are shared by parents and students to identify school communities that have the potential to use those Safe Route School program activities to achieve student travel mode shared changes. So just to give an overview of what the Bike Coalition is currently doing with the Safe Route School program and the areas of safety and school skills education, they're doing pedestrian safety lessons in school, bicycle rodeos, both in school and on the weekends for communities and families, and also different workshops for different subjects as needed. There's also efforts they're doing on active transportation encouragement through monthly encouragement activities and challenges, specifically for the October Walk and Roll to School Day, November Ruby Ridges Day, and then November through April Walk and Roll to School Day activities, which can include the Golden Sneaker Award, Walking School Bus and Bike Train, and of course, Bike to School Day in May. For the areas of infrastructure support, they, as I mentioned earlier, do student travel mode tallies and student address mapping, along with engagement with the Safe Route School task forces in Santa Rosa and Paloma, and then doing site assessments with their subcontractor, W-Trans, doing engineering for that work. So with this effort, we're looking at how can we expand and improve on the existing Safe Route School program. The Bike Coalition for the Safe Route School program has done a great job, and they are really kind of limited on the staffing they have available to expand the program further. But we're looking at how can we expand. These are a few different concepts we're looking at, and we want your input on them, but how can we expand the Safe Route School task forces? Can we bring in senior champions and partners to help expand on those? Whether that's jurisdiction-specific Safe Route School task forces, working with the different school district superintendents, Leadership 40 group, And then also looking at broader engagement with SCTCA and jurisdiction bicycle and pedestrian advisory committees, such as this committee and the individual jurisdiction committees, and also working with advocates. We're also looking at, can we look at how we're doing school science assessments? For example, right now we have the top 12 or so locations included our fiscal year 23 Safe for All grant scope that Mark Thomas and Fair and Pairs are looking at. And then how can we expand that further using the existing bi-coalition contract with Debbie Trans as their sub-consultant? How can we also use that to bolster the engagement we're doing with those different schools that are prioritized? And then how can we also look at how can we leverage the existing processes that we're doing with SCBC and through this Safe Streets for All grant, and then working on existing templates and materials. Other ideas we had were looking at expanding the countywide walk and roll to school day, working with the different superintendents to endorse, promote, and participate that further. Launching a countywide registration and planning support portal to streamline tracking participation in the walk and bike to school day, along with working on identifying champions and sustaining programs going forward. We'd also like to look at how can we bolster press and media coverage to further reinforce those days and trying to get further mode shift that way. Another idea that we've had that is kind of new for us is looking at how can we potentially provide stipends and support to keep things like walk and roll bus pilot programs going. As parents and there's kids age out of schools and move on to the next level of school, there's a hard time trying to keep things going. And so how can we look at leveraging bi-coalition resources or having an independent program to launch different pilot programs to perhaps provide micro grants to keep these programs going and then keep the schools engaged as the next tranche of students age into the age of where they're going to be going walk and bike to school. Perhaps we can look at doing it as one elementary and middle school as a pilot program to fund organizers and chaperones and try to encourage the mode shift to active transportation. So this is a conceptual schedule of what we look at if we did do some kind of pilot like that, where we would work on planning, formalizing different partnerships with the schools and partners, the Safe Route School Task Force, for example, and advocates, work on safety and training, and then work on logistics and setup for the events themselves, and then launching and making sure that the programs are sustainable going forward. So this is just a concept, as I shared. We really want feedback from the committee on, are we going the right direction with First Safe Route School program? Are there things where we can add value or change up how things are done? But just kind of give you a schedule where we're at. We're trying to finalize these kind of recommendations on how we're going to tweak the program this fall. We're going to be identifying funding from the federal OBAG forward process in early 2026. Then getting those funds programmed and obligated by early 2027, and then issuing an RFP to select a new contractor to perform the Safe Route School program by summer of 2027. That way they're in place for the 2027-2028 school year. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I welcome your input and discussion on the different things we're considering right now, or if you have other ideas, happy to incorporate them. I should note that we're going to be taking the same presentations, both this one and the previous one, to the Technical Advisory Committee and Citizens Advisory Committee in August, along with the SCTA board in September, to line up with when the bi-coalition does their annual reports to the CAC and the board. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, feedback, questions, desired outcomes from the members of the committee?
Thank you for presenting all of this. This was a bunch of information. It's much easier to listen to and watch the presentation as you talk through all the processes. So thank you.
I did like the idea of, it sounded like we would fund chaperones to actually take kids on like these walking and biking school buses, because I know especially places in underserved areas, right, EPCs, stuff like that, that people don't have the time to, but if they got paid to do it, it might change things for them.
Yeah, I think that was a that's like that direction too. I mean, definitely, it's the continuity, because you have, for parents, you'll have some parents there for a little while. But if they don't have time, then it's just to be chaperoning, doing the walking bus, and taking, if they had a little bit of a stipend, that might be more encouragement. And even later on, as you look at continuity, if there's an older, a kid or maybe a high school student that wants to take that on. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that it could go, but something that gives that little boost for someone to take that time to do that makes a lot of sense to me, to look at pursuing that. I also, different note, one of the discussions that keeps coming up in our bike ped advisory committee is, what is the commitment on the school district side to help folks want to bring their bikes, allow their children to bring their bikes and to walk and to not drive. In other words, actually really to make it harder to drive in. So, and harder to, again, park your bike. So what we've seen in our school districts and some of our schools, that the bike parking will go away. So now parents don't want their kids bringing a nice bike or a scooter because there's nowhere to park. The schools make it easier to drive, making sure that there's, they're trying to make sure that there's a way for cars to come into the parking lot and exit, which makes sense, but it means that we're encouraging car driving. So where does that direction come from? Does it come from the top? So as you look at your program, find ways to either, again, you're talking to superintendents, but where does it go from there? Is it superintendents and the principals, or the facility managers to be encouraged to not discourage active transportation? At least that's what we're seeing in our area. So I'm glad you're going to look at that.
I had another comment on the potential, like chaperones or something. Could the person that gets contracted to do this actually like have multiple schools that they could chaperone potentially throughout the county, maybe, but like do a different school a week, right? And then be able to go around that way. That way you're covering more area and getting more people involved in biking and walking to school. But somehow you have to vet it through the schools too, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. I think we haven't really gotten to the details yet of, are we giving microgrants to the schools? Is it to individuals or nonprofits? I do like the idea of, well, can we just stipend someone to come out 5 days a week and then they're going to a different school each day? That might be a good opportunity. And I think we always have to be careful on kind of the liability and the background checks and everything else. And so that's definitely something that we'd have to flesh out further.
Okay, anything else from the group? From the back, the member of the public, and from the gallery. Super. Thank you.
Just wanted to say, I appreciate hearing your comments on these potential programs.
Okay, so I think that brings us to item number 6 on the agenda, updates. Oh, thank you, David, for the presentation. Number 6, updates, 6.1 roundtable discussion. So we'll go around the table and see if anyone has anything they want to bring up. I don't have anything in particular. Except for that, the trail to Crane Creek is moving along. If you're on Pet Hill, drive by, if you're going north, look at the hill, and there's a cut in the hill. I'm told that it will look less cut as the trail proceeds, but it's very exciting. Yeah, it's moving. I mean, we as a city, not the builder of trails, we're trying to manage our consultants and our contractors. Of course, they know it's bedrock, but anyway, it'll be a great trail when it's finished. Let's move to my left.
And Sonoma County Regional Parks thanks the City of Roanoke Park for that partnership, and it is exciting to see the trail being developed after 20 years and on the.
I think it's more than 20 years.
More than 20 years. For regional parks, we put our Joe Rodota Trail Bridge replacement out to bid. Unfortunately, the bids came in over twice the engineer's estimate, and so we don't know our next steps, but we're circling back with our engineer and talking about what our next steps might be. So more to come on that. And if you don't know, these are bridges 1 and 3 on the trail between Santa Rosa and Sebastopol that need to be replaced. So more to come. Next.
So, yeah, like the chief of PPA projects.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone's work on those applications. We're available if you have any questions pop up. I know the due date on the 8th is coming up quickly, and hopefully those of you that are getting consultant technical assistance, they're helping out. And if anything comes up or there are any issues, please let us know.
No updates from the town of Windsor.
No updates from Kentucky right now.
From Santa Rosa, right now we're working on a Thriving Communities grant that we got to look at linkages between the Prince Memorial Greenway and the Southeast Greenway. This is, forward thinking and trying to connect the two, walking and biking in a low stress manner. So we're working on that. I'm not sure exactly when we'll do community engagement for that, but I think it's going to be more like spring of next year. We're just trying to flesh out some of the alternatives for that. And then, we have some infrastructure improvement projects that are going on. So like Cleveland Avenue, we completed half of that, and that was through TFCA funding. The other half, hopefully we'll get to in between a slurry project that we have going on. So our in-house crews are doing that. So eventually we'll get a connection from the Coffee Park neighborhood and through fire rebuild money to have class 4 bike lanes all the way to Piner Road. And then we have a PPM project, I think that's going to be coming on later this summer, where it's going to be Piner and Cleveland, where we add protected bike lanes on both of those roadways. College Avenue, I said Cleveland again. So College Avenue would be between Stony Point Road and Dutton. And then on Dutton Avenue, it'd be between College Avenue and Gurnville Road. Are you gonna speak here?
Anyone in the gallery, remote updates?
Yeah, can you this is guys hear Will. me? Oh, sorry, I was talking right at the same time. Sorry about that.
Go ahead, Stephen. I'll follow up.
Oh, all I was going to ask is that gentleman who was just speaking about the City of Santa Rosa projects, those at Sonoma County, we have like a young and budding ATP division ourselves. And it would be nice to have a meeting because we're trying to produce cost estimates for some improved bicycle pathways all around the county. And I've been struggling to get unit prices for some just basic things like the green paint, the special green paint that gets used for the bike lanes, and some of the buffered striping. And I don't know all of the people at City of Santa Rosa very well. And I was wondering if that gentleman who was just speaking wouldn't mind emailing me so that we could get something started where we just have a quick meeting to go over some of our projects and potential helping each other out and connectivity issues. That's all.
Yeah, we'll follow up.
This is Will with the unincorporated county planning department. I just wanted to let this committee know that we are taking our active transportation plan to the county BPAC tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock at the Permit Sonoma hearing room. And then hopefully after that, getting recommendation for approval to take to our planning commission and the board of supervisors on, as of this morning, 11/4. So I just want to let you know, thanks to, I see Dana's in the audience. She helped us out a lot on this and started this project. So we're taking some great work forward and would look forward to hearing from you all at that hearing tomorrow night. And that's it for me.
Very good. Good luck with that. Okay, I think we are on 6.2, shared micro mobility updates.
All right, I'll just give a brief update on the Redwood Bike Share program. May and June ridership went up pretty substantially, I think with the better weather and promotions that happened during Bike Month in June, in May. So there were 1,275 rides in June, which is, up quite a bit from the earlier spring and winter months. The promotion for Bike Month, which was a $5 monthly membership, was very well used, and I think that some of that kind of spilled over into June, so that's good to see. And that is all I have on that, unless there's any questions or comments from the jurisdictions with the program.
Questions, comments? I always like to see that the bike racks are not full of bikes. That means they're being used.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be helpful to think holistically about, and I've already talked to Dana kind of about this, about expanding the network more than it is so that we do get more rides, because right now I feel like the system how it is doesn't have enough hubs, or we're working on drop zones too, but like to be able to get people to places and services that they actually need, it's kind of confined at the moment. And so any thoughts on expansion, I think, or the thought process of thinking of that in the future, I think it's kind of where we need to start moving our thinking on the program. But yeah.
When does the program end? The pilot
So
program?
it's funded for 2 years of operations, so that's through October 2026.
Okay, it's a little bit, year and a half or less than that. Year and a
Yeah, so
quarter.
I mean, we are, kind of looking at that 1 year mark to do a pretty thorough analysis on the system and really kind of strategize for future beyond the pilot.
Right, okay. Anything else from the group?
I would say that heat map that provided is really interesting. And also, I think is a good indicator of where new hubs can go. You can see there's collections where there's no hubs. For example, in Santa Rosa, the Veterans Building. Probably the park there too, but anyway, really interesting stuff came out of that last meeting.
Mhm. Any questions from the public about the micro mobility update? Anything from the gallery? Okay. 6.3, update on SETCA loaner equipment.
All right, yeah, just to let folks know, Santa Rosa currently has 2 of the bike counter mobile multi, kind of the old tubes deployed on Cleveland Avenue. So, but we do have 2 of the infrared pyro EVs that can, EVOs that can, that are available for loaning. So that would be ones that don't distinguish between bicyclist or pedestrian, just kind of body heat. So those 2 are available for rental, I guess, at no cost.
No cost, all right. Let your public works staff know when you put them up. That's our story in Runner Park, because they will look to trim them up. Who is this? We're trying not to lose them. Okay. Item number 7, other business comments, announcements.
I read an interesting article that if you, and I'll try to find it and send it to people. I was thinking of it in terms of the zero, the heck is it?
Vision Zero.
Yeah, Vision Zero. But the article alluded, it was a study, examined all these intersections, and if you increased the amount of time that you gave a pedestrian to cross the street before allowing the cars to arrive, just to like 7 seconds, the amount of deaths and injuries like dropped dramatically. So just giving pedestrians a little bit of a head start as opposed to sending cars and pedestrians right off the go. So I thought that was if you can just do something that simple and effectively reduce injuries and deaths at intersections, that's pretty impressive.
So was that LPI? It was 7 seconds on the leading ped?
Yeah, giving the pedestrians just a little bit of a head start before you give the cars the ability to do, and it would cost nothing. You know, all you got to do is just change your programming a little bit on those lights. I'll try to find it and distribute it to the group or to Steph, and she can send it out.
Read a few articles. I think they're called staggered crossings. They're very effective.
Pardon?
They're called staggered crossings.
Okay, yeah.
And they're very effective.
Yeah, I had not heard that, so
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed when I read it.
I think I'm also aware, though I'm not sure about the legislation, that same kind of leading pedestrian interval, that when it shines on for pedestrians, it also now applies to bicyclists as well too. I'll have to follow up to get that legislation. I remember talking with someone who's the up to know that.
I don't know what the legislation, what it was called, but it was recent, where if the crosswalk, the walk sign is on and you're on a bicycle and at the red light, you can start through the intersection, with the crosswalk, signal before, like while the light is still red. So I've been doing it. I hope it's okay.
Yeah, I believe that was AB 1909 that took effect in 2024.
Oh. All right. Any other business comments, announcements? Anything from the gallery? Quiet. Okay, I think that brings us to item 8. We will adjourn. Thank you very much.